If you farm iron and pumpkins, then iron golems can be a pretty cheap way to get a lot of assistance defeating mobs. But one thing a lot of people overlook is how they can be splashed with all the positive splash potions. So, for example, with invisibility. If you splash an iron golem with invisibility, unlike a player, it becomes completely invisible, which helps a lot when it needs to get away from mobs. They can also have the effects of strength, they can have regen, they can use healing, they can have swiftness, they can have fire resistance too, which is useful for when mobs are burning in the sun and might light them on fire. The splash potion of healing has a double benefit because 90% of the time the mobs that they're attacking are undead, which means that when you splash both the iron golem and the mobs with this potion, the golem is healing while the mobs are taking damage, which means that you're actually doing double. If you're earlier in the game where it's hard to get a magma cube farm, then you can use slime from a potion of oozing slime farm and blaze powder from a blaze farm to combine into magma cream. And also on top of that, you can repair the golems with iron ingots if you don't want to use potions of healing or regen. If something dies due to burning from fire aspect, but not from your hit, and your sword has looting, then the looting doesn't happen. If I hit these creepers, see what happens. I get about 38 gunpowder. These will die instantly, and if I hit this, I get more than just 38, I get over a stack. This is the same problem that can happen with the Endermen, so when Endermen are pursuing you while you stand in water, or when you're in the rain or something, then they will constantly lap the edges of the water and take damage, and if they die from that rather than your hit, you're not going to get the looting effect. Next up is the fact that the diamond and netherite hose are really not useless, especially with Unbreaking 3, efficiency, and fortune or silk touch. When it comes to leaves, if you want to grow your tree farm much quicker and multiply the saplings much quicker, you can break with fortune, and you'll get more, ultimately. You'll get more saplings from doing that. If you break it with silk touch, then you can get a lot of leaves for something like an Enderman farm while consuming way lower durability than shears. Also, hoes are optimal for breaking all of these blocks without using as much durability as other tools you might use to break them. On the topic of farming, a lot of the time manual farms are actually the best way earlier in the game to get a huge amount of whatever you're trying to get, because remember, the smaller automatic farms tend to be very linear in their rates, whereas these kind of multiply exponentially. Another tip I was going to bring up is that the best hoe to use to break these crops to get a boosted fortune count and boosted crop drops is actually gold. You can find a fortune gold hoe either in a ruined portal chest or by throwing it in the enchanting table. Because of the higher enchantability that comes with gold, that means you're much more likely to get Fortune 3, and even Fortune 2 or Fortune 1 is infinitely better than nothing, and I would start with that for sure if you have access to that. And since breaking an item with a hoe is not automatically a durability usage in the case of a crop, that means that the fact that it's gold doesn't have downsides in this case. And the benefit of fortune is not mainly for the time that you harvest it, it's actually to multiply it faster. In the case of melons, the only way to multiply them faster is to get more melon slices from breaking them with fortune and then crafting that into more seeds than you would have had before. To ensure that you're placing your water and farmland in the right places, start off with this pattern where you have 4 long pluses that are connected together. Then when you fill in the farmland, make sure that you plant in rows, so you could go like carrots, potatoes, wheat, or something, because for some reason that grows faster. Now I'm going to talk about how you can get the XP more quickly by breeding chickens. So there's several reasons why I think this is one of the best ways. The first is that they can be packed very tightly, especially with max entity cramming set to a high value in game rules, which would mean they're not dying from being crammed. The next is that they can be multiplied very quickly. If you use fortune on the wheat farm, you get a lot of seeds. If you throw eggs, you get a lot of the chickens. So when it comes to breeding them, it's generally a good idea to go in a sort of circle. What you want to do is you want to kind of circle around them, because first, this helps prevent them from crushing as much, and also it helps ensure that you can actually click on all of them without them kind of overwhelming you and blocking off your ability to click on them. When it comes to the enclosure, you generally want something larger than you think so that you're not struggling to do it, and you also want carpets so that you can jump through. Ideally, what you would do is every 5 minutes or so you would breed them, because that's how long it actually takes for their cooldown to go away, and every 2 or 3 minutes you would collect the eggs. Remember, they produce them very quickly, like once every 5 minutes, but they also despawn in 5 minutes, which means you can't just wait 5 minutes, you have to come in earlier, like 2 or 3 minutes to actually catch all of them. And once you collect eggs, you just want to throw them in Once again, throw them in like every 2 or 3 minutes or so while you continue to breed them for every 5 minutes. And when you kill them, ideally what you want to do is have sweeping edge, but also put this in your offhand, because what happens is that causes them to come so close to you that the sweeping edge has a better chance to actually hit them, and that means you can get the XP more quickly too. Don't forget that in order to get away from a creeper, it both has to have enough space behind it to be knocked back, and there has to be enough space for you to get out of the way too. So blocks that jut up like this can be a huge issue. Also, when they fall, their timer starts at the top of their fall, which means when it gets down to where you are, it can explode very quickly, so be careful of that. There are 2 situations where you want to use an axe. One is where a mob is difficult to approach regularly, like with a creeper or with a phantom, where it sweeps toward you occasionally, but it's mostly up in the air. The reason why that's true is that the damage per second is pretty nullified if you're not able to hit them quickly. The damage per second also becomes less meaningful if it's the deciding factor in a one-shot. So, for example, even if the sword has higher damage per second, if it doesn't one-shot a mob when this would, then there's no point in using the sword. But another really important point is that looting can't be put on the axe, which sucks, but that's how it works. So if that's important to you, make sure that you actually use a sword. A lot of melee-only mobs can essentially be beaten by just pillaring 3 blocks up, but don't get shot down. Make sure you have a shield. There's a few other ways to distance yourself from mobs. Some examples are to ender pearl away, to trap it in a boat, to create a 1-block hole so it can't reach you but you can still attack it, and also, as a last resort, you can splash yourself with fire resistance and put lava on yourself, and it won't hurt you, but the stuff that's running up to you will probably get trapped in it and die. And if you're feeling really scared, you could even bring an iron golem in with you so that when a mob spawns, it can also sit in the lava and attack it. Also, with fire resistance, don't forget about the piglin trade. We lost the crafting of the enchanted golden apple, but you can still use this to essentially skip the blaze step, or at least the damage from the blaze step. Poison, the flint and steel, flame, and fire aspect are all great ways to continue damaging a mob while you run away to help regenerate yourself. One of the things I really like about Flame is you don't even have to reapproach to continue giving it fire damage that might kill it. But of course, remember before with looting, if you're trying to really loot mobs, this is probably not a great idea. Also, another thing is that you can very easily be lit on fire with this. The only armor that doesn't take fire damage is netherite armor, which means it can be pretty damaging to your armor. And if you're rich enough to afford the fire resistance all the time, that would be a good idea with this, though netherite may actually be cheaper in the long run. People tend to forget the utility of looting on mobs that fly, like the ghasts and phantoms, but both of these can ultimately be killed with a looting sword to get even more benefit. For example, you've probably killed a phantom with a sword, and it does drop more than normal if you have looting. A ghast, especially with it being so large, is pretty easy sometimes to kill with a sword. And doing that will give you more gas tiers as well, which can mean more regen potions. And the only hit that truly has to be done with the sword is the last one. The other ones can all be done with projectiles. If you have a chance to suffocate a mob in gravel or sand, which is rare, you should do it though, because it does work and it means you don't have to do anything. You can just sit back while it happens. If you enchant your crossbow with multi-shot and quick charge 3, and then in your offhand load up a firework that has a good number of explosions in it, you can actually do a lot of damage that's also ranged, and this is probably some sort of war crime, so don't do this too often, but let's see how this works. And last but not least, you probably haven't bred enough cats, which is, like, seriously? Like, breed more cats. You need more. Like, more!